All right, this is the 2024 basically New Year chart. In astrology talk, they call it mundane, Mundane. And all this means, and it specifically means something, is that when the sun gets to zero Aries, which is always at the vernal equinox at March 21st, when it hits zero Aries, that's really the beginning of a new year. Yeah, so maybe you weren't aware of that, but that's reality. But that's not the point. And the way you would analyze these charts would be basically just to pull any city or town in the world. And if the astrology program has a good ephemeris downloaded or installed into the software, all the calculations will pop up, And it's basically when the sun hits 0 degrees Aries, specifically at what time of day, that will designate the rising sign for that particular city. So in this particular instance, that right here that I got pulled up, as you can see, the date is March 20th, 2024 at 5:06 in the morning. um, this is a South Indian chart. So you'll see the little kind of 45-degree angle diagonal right here in this square block. That's going to designate what the Indians call the Lagna. And basically, it's the rising sign, and it sets the whole chart, the foundation of the chart. The Westerners call it the stakes. It sets the stakes, like your cross, like the cross that Jesus was nailed to. Well, if you get technical, the zodiac is 360 degrees. And if you make a cross inside of a circle, that's four 90-degree arcs, right? So if we take that into consideration, you'll see that 2754 Aquarius is designated as the rising sign. And that's okay, and that's fine. But I mean, I'm sure you can see what's the big, I guess you could say, standout in the chart. And if you're familiar with this glyph, you'll know that Mars is smack dab on the ascendant for the city of Kiev, Ukraine, for the new year. Now, I guess I'm gonna, being the sarcastic asshole that I am, and I don't mean any harm by it. I guess it's just the dry humor that Saturn gives me, but that's not really too great of a thing. And when I'll add the layer on it, because I mean, this is all fine and dandy. This is not I guess you could say ordinary. I mean, when you got Mars that close on the Lagna, a malefic on the Lagna, that's, they're gonna have some problems, I guess you could say, especially with Saturn, the owner of Aquarius, in the second house from it, drowning in the sign of Pisces. Yeah, with Venus, and I didn't even get to that yet. And the Saturn Venus conjunction, when you see the sun's at 0 degrees Aries, right? That's what a mundane chart is. It's for any place whenever the sun and hits 0 Aries, and it's going to be on the around this time of year every year. But this Saturn Venus conjunction is very tight. And Venus is exalted in Pisces, right? Venus likes being there. The good thing about all this is that these two planets, uh, even though Saturn doesn't really care, or he can manage being in Pisces, but he didn't really like it. But these two, relative to each other, they're really, I guess they're planets, they're friends. They really agree with each other. It's not like you'd have a Saturn Mars conjunction right there, for the whole year. But there is this concept in Vedic astrology that's not really utilized. I guess you could say. I say utilized, but I'd probably assume 60 to 70% of Vedic astrologers would say planetary war is happens just by longitudinal conjunctions, and that is the farthest thing from the truth. Because the truth of the matter is it's not. And what determines that is the apparent distance from those two planets. And what I mean by apparent is whenever you go outside and look up at the sky, these two planets would pretty much be on top of each other. I don't know if you're aware, but if these two, sometimes these two planets will be at the same longitudinal degrees, like in this instance, 10 Pisces. Both of them could be at 10, but yet you go outside, they're nowhere near each other. Yeah, it's I guess you say, issue in astrology. Astrologers not being too, I get their astronomy isn't too great, and from what I understand, that's bestowed on a person by K2, the south node of the moon. Um, I'm sure there's arguments, against that, but the Indians, uh, that's their mojo, and when it really comes down to, who's right, I'm gonna be straight up with you. I'm gonna give the Indians the benefit of the doubt over any other type of race in this art in the world, hands down. Because I mean, fuck, just look what they got after 5,000 years of tradition. They still got it. Nothing was lost. You might think it was lost, but it was just not written in books, and taught orally to the next generation. With that being said, the planetary war. Um, Ever since a guy I learned a lot from, Ernst Wilhelm, um, brought this up. I mean, it's really it's gathered. It's really an interest of mine, like a niche, in the subject, um, because not a lot of, it hadn't been tested for one. I there's I know it's a big deal because, like, see, this is happening right now, and the way you can tell on this software that they're at war when the Indians give you Shadbala, which are the six strengths of planet. You can see them right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Well, the one right after the sixth one, that Yud B, that's called Udabala, and that's basically planetary war. And if you go down all the way on the right, and you'll see Venus with plus 77 and Saturn with minus 77. So Venus, I mean, the Indians have a way of measuring all this, and they do it. It's called Varupas. That's really neither here or there. the crux of what I'm trying to tell you right now is that Venus comes out in this chart as one of the strongest planets with 510 total points, only second to the moon. And Saturn, even if you would have had these 77 points that he lost, would still only have around 300. So Saturn's weak. Okay. Saturn's weak. And Saturn is getting beat in war. And if you think about Ukraine right now, what's going on? What the fuck's going on, huh? Russia is holding its almighty hand back from wiping the motherfucker off the earth or basically go and take it over. It really and truly what your opinion is of this. If you think it's true or not, it really doesn't bother me because if you're not aware of the misinformation in the media by now, you got a long ways to go. But so we got, and by the way, Venus always wins the war in these planetary wars, and the sun and the moon are never at war or with war or at war with other planets. It's only the story grahas, aka planets, and the story grahas would be Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. Yeah, newsflash, I don't use egregores in astronomical analysis. Um, and yes, I'm talking about Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. I'm going to make a video on Uranus very soon, and I don't know, all the similarities or synchronicities it has being discovered around the same time as America being discovered, you know. But I digress. So, long story short, we got a malefic in the Lagna for this mundane chart in Kiev. War. Mars is war. Mars is the fucking god of war. I don't know, you know, a lot of people try and throw these archetypal things. I mean, it's just clear as day sometimes like this, you know? You don't have to fucking overthink it. I mean, it's just what's going down over here. I could show you at least 5 other charts for cities in the world, and 2754 Aquarius will not be rising with Mars on it. Okay, now that's really the big thing with this chart. Is, you know, you got the 10th and the 3rd and the 1st, which really ain't a bad really setup for Mars. A lot of people really misunderstand the relationship of Mars and Saturn, I think. And be honest with you, you'll hear astrologers call them planet enemies. You know, they don't like each other, but I beg to differ. I call bullshit on that. And a simple analysis of the zodiacal signs and you know, the lordship of each other. You know, when Mars is debilitated, I mean, not debilitated, when Mars is in its own sign in Aquarius and Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Who owns Capricorn? Well, yeah, you're right, Saturn. So, one of the I don't have any experience with it. I've never seen it really at play in a person's life or an event. But if a person has Saturn debilitated in Aries with Mars in Aries or Mars in Capricorn, that's one of the best Nichiban Garage yogas you can have in a chart. Because if you think about it, It's the 110 setup from Capricorn and Aries. You know what I'm saying? So if you just take the structure of the zodiac and how these planets own these signs, they really, it's kind of hard for them to be enemies, but I digress. Let me stop on that. So yeah, Mars on the ascendant, and I'm talking about very fucking snug, within 10, what, no, 18, 8 minutes. 27:46 versus 27:54. Very tight. And again, the theme of war in the second house with Saturn and Venus, with Venus beating up on the ascendant Lord Saturn. All right, hopefully I got the theme of that all laid out as best as I can. I'm sure I could do a little better, but I'm a little nervous and I don't really do this shit too much. But trying to explain all this, but that set off my you know set off my alarm, in my head when I seen this chart when I pulled it, because I pull it since 2021. I pull it for about 4 or 5 countries, China, Ukraine, Israel, the U.S. I check out what the fucking setup's gonna be for the year, and obviously that's a red flag. Now, what blew my socks off on all this, because lo and behold, I'm r- not really familiar with this chart, but familiar enough with the prime minister or the president. What's his name? Zelensky, the fucking Nazi Jew. Excuse me. Yeah, you heard me right. And now that I'm gonna be, I guess you can say, publicly speaking, I've never, I have no problems with a Jew. Honestly, I don't think I know a fucking Jew. I swear to you, I don't think I do. I can't say I do. I don't have no problems with them. Anybody. But I will. I won't. I mean, I will also call spades spades. And I'm 40. I'll be 42 on the 28th of March, and the things that I'm coming to learn, particularly about Zionism, it's not even the Jew thing. It's Zionism, and how the two world wars went down. I can say I got strong circumstantial. I mean, really and truly, there's really hard documented evidence that there are a band of wealthy Jewish international fascists that have grabbed the world by the balls and haven't really let it go. I think they can call the shots. And you can see that nature is fine. You're not going to get away with it forever. All your little secrets and cover ups. I mean, I really, and I hate to say this, man. In my opinion, the whole fucking 20th century American history is all a bunch of lies. And it kills me to say that. I mean, I was in the fucking army. I'll show you. I got my picture of my fucking boot camp right here on the wall, man. 2008. And you think me coming from Louisiana, I'm this big Republican or whatever? Well, guess what? You know why I joined the fucking army? Because Obama sold me on hope and change, back then. And then the financial crisis of 2008 came along. And Obama really showed who the fuck he was, and he's nothing but a fucking pawn for the same motherfuckers that have been calling the shots, the banking lobby, and that have been calling the shots since World War One. He caved to him, and after that, I just seen every politician basically capitulate, you know, to the whore. I call it the whore Babylon. But I mean, there's not a one of those cocksuckers over there in Washington D.C. that I'd piss on to put out in the fire, and I'm serious. And that goes from the Louisiana representatives all the way down to the fucking president, whether it's Trump, Biden, George Bush, all of them. Now, with that said, am I this big fucking anti-American? Of course not, dude. I'm all about rationality, logic, and sense, and I really don't care too much for the collectivists in general, whether it's a collectivist individual or collectivism, you know, big groups, big group think type shit. I'm not a fan of it. Um, just in economics, I mean, in Russia, that proves it. And, China, I'm telling you, China by 2020, by 2030, China is going to be no more. It's going to be a bunch of breakaway. It's going to be just like the USSR and what's going on, with Ukraine, how that shit happened. I'll put money on it. It just don't work, y'all. And the motherfuckers that sold Marxism and collectivism, well, rich motherfuckers, looking over there in London at the London School of Economics. Who's behind that? Socialists, Fabian fucking socialists, and they really slick with with how they do all this shit. But uh, nah, they just got too fucking crazy with it, man. You know, uh, playing politics is one thing, but fucking what amounts to treasonous is what they did since the 70s, since Nixon shut down any kind of fucking fiscal authority on this country. It basically amounts to treason. And you can't really say you can put it on one person, but when you fucking just look at history, man, I mean, it's not rocket science of what the power players did. And I mean, they sold out for globalism, basically. And you're seeing that all fail right now. But anyway, guess that's my little fucking rant or whatever. And everybody got opinions and assholes, and I'm no different now. Am I ever wrong? Yeah, you're damn right. But I don't know. I was always the type to be wrong. I'm gonna be wrong, not nobody else. And that would go with any kind of work I do, or if it was a snap decision I had to make on the fly. I'd rather be the one on the line for something than somebody else on the line for me. But anyway, Kiev, Ukraine, Mars on the ascendant, Venus beating Saturn. The war is the theme. Let's look at Zelensky's chart, and I'll tell you what this chart right here, and I'll say it too. Like, if you look at this man's when he was born, so the end of January in 1978, we had Mars Saturn conjunction, and that's really not that odd, or happens every 2 years. So, but it's where it happened, and how it happened is what's crazy about all this. Um, you got Mars. Both of them are retrograde in his chart. Okay, we need to get that straight. Actually, Jupiter is too. You got Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn retrograde. And when you see planets retrograde or they have this aura on them, really all this means is that it's at the farthest distance from the sun that it'll get in its orbit. So whenever you look at these planets from Earth, whenever they're retrograde, they're going to be very bright. And you're going to fucking know they're there. And Westerners got this kind of twisted logic. I say it is the way they size up retrogression in astrology charts is usually not a, a good thing, you know. And again, I lean with the Indians, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of biased. I was born in '82, and I got all those same planets all retrograde too, but I don't have them in the sign of Leo, where Saturn is not too happy. Okay, his chart again. Mars, Saturn, and Leo, right? Now look at Saturn. What's that number say? 2851. Now, I'm not going to pull it up, but what did I just tell you was the two themes on that Kiev Ukraine mundane chart? Mars on the ascendant and Venus beating up Saturn in war in the second house. Okay, so if we go across 180 degrees from Saturn, where that's at? Okay, so he has Sun and Venus, and it's a very tight conjunction with these two. That's who's in Aquarius. Now just think, it's not in this chart. I said 2754 Aquarius rising, right? Well, guess what? That's exactly 180 degrees away from. Yeah, you're right. His natal fucking Saturn. So not only does this dude have the moon him between Saturn and Mars on both sides of Leo at 0 degrees, he has Mars, and then basically at 30 degrees, Saturn's over there on the other side, and they have his moon hemmed in between them. You know how, like, it, I don't have any, you know, really real empathy for the Ukrainians too much, and I'm sure there are some, you know, good people and everything, but this shit with the Jews really got me twisted up. So, but long story short, even with all this said, with the like, it makes me feel sorry, like for a setup like this. Like I could only imagine what this dude, like his mind. You know, the moon represents the mind in astrology, and if you have your moon hemmed between the two malefics, that's not too good. And he's actually got Saturn applying to the moon, so Saturn's running into it. Yeah, so that Mars, the Kiev chart is definitely is I don't know, is so fucking activated by the Lagna and Mars being at 27 degrees. I mean, that's a 1 degree orb from his natal Saturn on the 1-7 axis, the most important axis in astrology. I don't think that's too auspicious for Ukraine. Uh, I just don't. And if you let's see, his Venus not only his you see he's got this his the Leo Aquarius axis for him is just straight. It is very damaged. you know, it's because you got the Sun and Saturn opposite each other, and it's not tight, but the Sun and Saturn they don't like each other, and they in each other's sign. You know, it's just it's not a good setup, man. And I've been waiting for something to happen to this fucking dude for a while, man. And I mean, I really don't wish anything bad upon him, but this shit's got to stop. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this psychopolitic USA policy of fiscal dominance is basically a form of soft fascism. Yeah, they make you say you think you're free, but when you got flooding the fucking system with buku liquidity, I mean, all you got to do is look around, you know. Uh, Fucking Dow Jones is at 40,000 fucking points now, you know. The Nasdaq's closing in on 20. You got fake money, Bitcoin, about to hit 100 grand. You know, these motherfuckers do not apparently care to test the limits of American exceptionalism, and that's particularly what I think policymakers have been doing. So we'll see, we'll see. But I'm gonna tell you right now, this shit is not good. This is not good, and whenever Mars and Saturn lock up very soon, within the next week, you're gonna be hearing some shit, you know, about you going down in Ukraine by the end of March. Um, and in my opinion, it's gonna be to where the U.S. media, government, whatever military industrial complex, they will not be able to sidestep the facts. With I mean, it's going to basically put pressure on every politician and the president um, to start listening to the fucking people because nobody. I say nobody. The majority of Americans disagree with all them fucking bureaucrats sending all this shit over there to fight Rush. I mean, they don't have any fucking men left to fight. To be honest with you. But anyway, another thing about Zelensky's chart is that Saturn at 28 degrees, it's if you notice, it's beating Jupiter. Jupiter's at 27. You know, even though it's in Gemini, but what I'm trying to show you right here is that when you look at every planet in the chart, and you take the one with the highest longitudinal degrees, and it's Saturn, and you look right here, and you see all these letters, and 8K, you see Saturn as the first one, so Saturn has the highest degrees. So the Indians call this the Atmacorica. Okay, so Saturn, this guy is going to really identify with that Saturn that's very afflicted. I mean, yeah. I think he was an actor. I mean, yeah, he's a good fucking actor. I give him that. But I don't think he's too stable of an individual myself. To be honest with you. uh, and that's you can confirm that in the Vargas, which is the divisional charts, but I already went overboard, overkill with all this. You know, as far as uh, you know, the length of the video or whatnot. Um, and then You see, his Venus is combust. All right, and combust means it's under the rays of the sun. The sun will burn anything up, any planet up. It's just he's the Mac Daddy of our solar system, right? If it wasn't for the sun, what would we have? Really, not too much, right? So he rules the chart, and the moon. Oh, I should have mentioned this is he was born on a full moon, a Leo full moon. The moon was in Leo, and whenever you see a full to call out or notice that the moon is full or new, in this case we're looking at full, it's going to be the sun and the moon will be directly opposite each other, just like, yeah, and they are. He's born on a Leo full moon, and it ain't a good one, in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion. So yeah, and so his Venus is already um, under stress from his sun. If you come back down here to this Shad Bala, which I was talking about in the Ukraine mundane chart, you see how you'll get a rank of all these planets in this Shad Bala, which is six strengths. And if you go all the way to the right, okay, and look at Saturn. Now, Saturn is not in war in this chart or anything, but it's not too strong, and it's gonna be getting his ass busted by Mars in about a couple of days. So I'm gonna just tell y'all, and I sincerely mean this. I really pray that the good are spared over there, and I really honestly believe that Putin is not the monster that they make him out to be, and a little astronomical analysis will kind of prove that. Um, but I mean, the reason why I admire the man so much is because he's one of the only politicians that I say in the world that he will not dick over his country, and he's proven it over and over again. And I don't know how many times he had to tell the fucking Americans, you know, NATO, stop trying to post up on our, back door. And they kept doing it, kept doing it, kept doing it. So, yeah, that's it. But I don't think it's gonna be. It ain't gonna be fun over there in the spring, summer. Uh, and I pray for all the people that deserve justice and they make it out in some kind of way. But it's going down in a couple, at a week at most. Be expecting shit to pop off. All right, y'all take care.